What's going on, everybody? Today is Wednesday, September 26, 2012. My name is Kevin Sixen Carlino, and this is episode number 2 of my Blizzard All-Stars Informational Series. Today's episode is going to be all about showcasing the heroes of Blizzard All-Stars. Not necessarily just the heroes from BlizzCon 2011, but also the heroes from BlizzCon 2010, in addition to any heroes Blizzard has shown any interest in adding at some point down the road, or even mentioned in a different panel, like the Art and Technology panel. So first things first, Blizzard's planning on having 16 heroes for the launch of the game. This number may change. Again, that's their original plans. We know about 12 heroes from BlizzCon 2011. We also know about 8 different heroes from BlizzCon 2010. So there's 20 different unique heroes right there. We also know about 20 or 30 heroes or so that Blizzard has mentioned or shown off in a different panel. So we're working with about 40 heroes or so, give or take a couple. Now again, like I said, the original plans are to have 16 at launch, but that doesn't mean there's only going to be 16 heroes for the entire length of the game. I'm talking about the history of the game as time goes on. They're always going to be adding more heroes, more content, more customization, etc. Balance patches, so keep that in mind, guys. So if there's only 16 at launch, don't worry. There's going to be a lot of variety. So each of these heroes that I'm going to be talking about are broken up into different hero roles, and Blizzard actually decided to go with 4 different roles. 3 of them are pretty straightforward. The last one I would argue is new, at least in this sense, and as a main role. So the first 3 are going to be tank, DPS, and support. So those, again, pretty straightforward. Your tank hero is your beefy guy. May not have a really high damage. It's probably going to be average damage, but his main goal or objective is going to be tanking damage, taking the brunt of the damage. He's going to want to initiate battles. The DPS character, on the other hand, is almost flip-flopped. He's pretty squishy, doesn't have that much health, but his main goal is to deal very high burst damage, right? Lots of DPS. He's also great for map control and ganking, keep that in mind. The support hero. He's great for swaying how the battle ends, right? He's a great healer. Sometimes he does AoE damage, sometimes he helps with map control. So he's kind of like that void where the other 2 heroes don't necessarily fill. So essentially, having a support hero in your battle is going to help things immensely. Now this 4th hero is, in previous games like Dota, this 4th hero, the hero type, the siege type, was always a role, but more like a sub-role. So siege heroes are essentially great at pushing lanes, taking towers. Now in games like Dota, we have heroes like Nature's Prophet, or Lycan, or Chen, just heroes that basically have minions, although not every pushing hero is a hero that has minions from Dota. I'm just using these guys as examples. They weren't really primarily meant for pushing lanes. Maybe they were support, maybe they were tank, DPS, carry, whatever. It was also just a plus that they were great at pushing lanes. Now, in Blizzard All-Stars, Blizzard decided to take it one step further and add an entire role to fill this particular void. So you won't have to have a support hero pushing lanes or a tank pushing lanes. There are actually siege heroes that will push lanes, that are primarily meant to push lanes. Alright, so they might not have a high DPS. They're kind of like an in-the-middle type character, like a mediocre character, but they also outrange towers. Now, before I get into this more specifically, why don't we check out the rest of the trailer from Episode 1.
Seriously.
So there's some Blizzard All-Stars gameplay footage of quite a few of the heroes. You might have noticed some other things, and I'm going to be talking specifically about those other things like tower mechanics and the health globe system in future episodes down the road. Again, I've got this all planned out in a nice little series, so keep that in mind. If you guys saw some things you were confused about, don't worry about it for now. Again, today's episode is all about heroes. That in mind, why don't we actually take a look and place each of the heroes we know about into their particular hero categories. So the first set of heroes we're going to be looking at right now are the tanks. Now on the left-hand side, we've got Arthas. In the middle, we've got Muradin, and all the way on the right-hand side, we've got Stitches. Now Stitches, as you can see, is kind of like Pudge, kind of like the Butcher, so he's kind of like a combination. Now, you might be able to actually notice that each of these heroes don't necessarily look like they're from one particular game. All the way on the right, we've got the Stitches character that looks like the Butcher, but he also has an Ultralisk head on top of his head, so he's wearing an Ultralisk like a hat, essentially. Now, Mirrodin from Warcraft actually has these rocket, like RPGs instead of arrows. He also kind of looks like the Marauder, so he's a very similar build as the Marauder. Okay. Now, this next set of heroes we're going to be taking a look at are the support heroes. Again, those are the tanks. These are the support heroes. And these support heroes we've got all the way on the left-hand side. We've got Uther, we've got Tassadar, and we've got Thrall. Third set of heroes are DPS heroes. We've got Kerrigan, Queen of Blades, we've got Zeratul, and we've got Nova Terra, the Ghost. And these are your DPS heroes again. And then, of course, we've got your Siege heroes. We've got General Warfield all the way on the left. We've got the Witch Doctor from Diablo in the middle. And we've got Zagara from Heart of the Swarm all the way on the right. Now, the Witch Doctor I didn't want to point out. Now, you actually can't see the last name I'm going to show off here, but the Witch Doctor itself, you know, obviously from Diablo, is also holding a Troll Witch Doctor head in his offhand. And on his back hip is actually a Zergling skull. So pretty sweet stuff. Blizzard isn't just trying to go with, hey, let's take some models from other games and throw them in here. No. This game is all about taking what's great from each of the franchises and combining it into one action RTS. So, a perfect example that I always tell people is the Witch Doctor, like I just said. Shows off all three major franchises, right? The Witch Doctor from Diablo, he's got a Troll Witch Doctor head from Warcraft, and he's also got a Zergling skull on his hip. That's freaking awesome. So, I know I just mentioned that it was just three major franchises, but keep in mind, we're not just looking at heroes from the three major franchises, and that actually brings me up on my next point. Some of the other heroes we're going to be looking at, or at least some that were at least mentioned, were like the Camaro from Rock and Roll Racing. Imagine having that driving around the map. Sammy really wanted to have that in the game. Two others he wanted to have in the game, Kyle Blackthorn from back in the day, and a Lost Vikings interchangeable hero like Pandaren Brewmaster from Dota. Imagine his ult just splits off into all three heroes. So maybe you are Tomater, the bad guy from Lost Vikings, and your ult is to split into the three Lost Vikings, Eric, Balog, and Olaf. It's interesting, and it's part of the Blizzard, the entire Blizzard organizational franchise, whatever you want to call it. It's part of Blizzard, and it's what makes Blizzard Blizzard, right? Imagine if Blizzard never released Lost Vikings, would they have gotten so big? Nah, that's not the topic I'm talking about. Today's all about heroes. Point is, they don't have to necessarily go with the three major franchises. They're going to be using heroes from their entire history as a company, which is really sweet. So some other heroes that they're going to be looking at, I'm just going to list these off because there's quite a bit. So we've got Artanis from StarCraft, we've got Asmodan, Diablo 3, the Barbarian, we've got the Butcher, which is pretty much like Stitches, Transtorm Stout, Deathwing, Diablo, Phoenix, another Protoss hero, Gabriel Tosh, Galluix, Goblin, Garrosh Hillscream, Gelbin Mechatork, Jen Greymane, which is a Worgen, Kael'thas, Kel'Thuzad, King Varian, Lady Vosh, Maiev Shadowsong, Mistress of Pain, and Ogre Ninja, which looks pretty sweet. I actually think that they're using the Ogre Ninja as neutral mercenary camp. I'm going to touch on that in another episode, though. Sarah Kerrigan as a ghost, which I'm not entirely sure if they're actually going to be using, because they do have Nova, and they also have Infested Kerrigan. Selendis, Skeleton King, which is Leoric. Thrall, the Shaman version, which we did see. Tyrael, actually no, we didn't see the Shaman version. We saw like the Grunt version. So there's also Tyrael, Tyrande Whisperwind, Velen, and Vol'jin. So this is about 20 heroes or so. Now this is not by any means all the heroes. I mean, there are still some pretty major heroes that we didn't mention. I can't even think of anybody for whatever reason, but actually Illidan, I didn't mention Illidan. Illidan's one of the heroes that we believe may be in the game. So there's Illidan, there's the Goblin Tinker, and Jim Raynor. May actually be in the game. They were shown off at a BlizzCon art panel, and they're in various screenshots here and there. So that's kind of iffy. Also, the Murloc Marine, Grunty, might be in the game. These are going to be the heroes from 2010. We've got Illidan, or no, sorry, we've got Vivictus, the Hunter-Killer Hydralisk. We've got Ultimaton, the Ultralisk. Level 80 Elite Tauren Chieftain might be in the game. He was in 2010. We've got Leon the Ghost, which I believe was replaced with Nova. We've got Sylvanas, which you actually saw in the gameplay video. Zemuro, a Blade Master, actually a Fel Orc Blade Master. And we also have, like I just said, Grunty the Murloc Marine. So these are all the heroes that we have to work with, at least for now, right? Because there's, like I said earlier, they have complete, variety in all their games. They could take literally anybody. I mean, they could take They could take the 5 angels from Diablo, you know, Imperius, etc. They could take literally anybody. Like, just the possibilities are endless. Literally anything from any of Blizzard's games. They could take Griswold if they wanted to. Why not? Rakinishu from Diablo. Why not? Right? So anyway, these are all the heroes we've got to work with, quite a bit. I also do want to mention that Lord Order is the king of each of the factions. Again, it's red faction and blue faction. We don't have any names just quite yet, but it's Lord Order. Who is Lord Order? He's actually the guy from the Sons of the Storm website. So sonsofthestorm.com. Check it out. He's the weird-looking armored dude. Kind of looks like a guy from Zelda, holding the axe. He's going to be the king of both red and blue factions. So there's actually going to be 2 different ones, a red one and a blue one. Obviously, red king, blue king. I do want to point that out. So now that we've actually covered each of the heroes, why don't we check out the selection screen just so you can look and see what it looks like. So this was from BlizzCon 2010. It actually shows off the skills, but again, we're not entirely sure which heroes are which, so I'm not going to get into that too much because most of the 2011 heroes actually don't have skills showing up here. So it might be hard to see, but not a huge deal. And this is what the 2011 selection screen looks like. This is going to be a great way to get me into my next point. How exactly are we going to be customizing these heroes? So again, as you can see, tank, DPS, support, siege, aha, pick hero color. That's the first way we're going to be able to customize your heroes. You're going to be able to select one of 16 different hero colors. That's all the 16 colors from StarCraft 2. You can look it up. It's like white, red, blue, teal, purple, and then it gets into like violet and dark brown, light brown, etc. So you're going to be able to pick any of those 16 hero colors, if not more. I mean, it's very possible they can add more. It's definitely doable. But again, 16 for sure. In addition, some ways to customize your heroes. So we might not have all the heroes unlocked at first, but Mike Morheim did mention in a recent interview that they're going to be pushing the game as an esport. So they might change this up, and they might allow you to have all the heroes unlocked at first. So now each hero is going to have a good side and a bad side, essentially just one for the red faction and one for the blue faction. After you've actually unlocked all the heroes, if they do pull through with that, or I guess even if they don't, as you continue winning games, you're going to be able to win customizable items for your heroes. This means people like Leoric might get a crown, or Tassadar might get a different back piece. The Witch Doctor might be able to get, I don't know, maybe Jim Raynor's head in his offhand. Just things of that nature. It's all going to be cosmetic changes, nothing gameplay changing. So keep that in mind. Essentially just different accessories. Now in addition, each of the heroes, every single hero is going to have their own unique mount. That's right, each hero is going to have a mount. So that's right, mount system is going to be replacing boots. I'm going to touch on that later on. I'm just mentioning that in this episode simply so you can get an idea of how exactly each hero is going to be different. Lastly, each of the heroes actually have their own hero audios, which everybody would have probably imagined. You know, they're going to have their pissed off lines. Like the Vulture is by far my favorite one from StarCraft 1. I'm not going to repeat it. Go check it out on YouTube if you want to. They're going to have acknowledgments, and the coolest thing I think about this is they're going to have hero-to-hero interactions. So what does that mean? Let's say you get Zeratul and Kerrigan in a battle together on opposing teams. And, I don't know, maybe Kerrigan kills Zeratul, and Zeratul says something like, I should have killed you when I had the chance. Something along those lines, or vice versa. It's all possible, and they have mentioned that they're going to be doing things like this, which is really sweet. I mean, imagine if we get Tyrael and Diablo in the game together. What's going to happen there? So they're going to be able to interact with each other through voiceovers. It's pretty cool. I think it's kind of cool. Just a nice little touch. That's the Blizzard polish, if you will. So the last thing that I wanted to mention here is that each hero is actually going to also be able to be chosen by both sides. So you could technically have a mirror match. You know, you can have Thrall, Uther, Sylvanas, Murky, and I don't know, the Witch Doctor on both teams. That's also why they're actually going to be adding different looks for the red faction and the blue faction, which makes sense. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up today's episode. If you like this series, follow me on Twitter at Sixen. It's S-I-X-E-N. Subscribe to my YouTube page. Again, I've got at least another 10 episodes planned, if not more, just because of theory crafting. So, you know, thanks for the support, and take it easy, guys. I appreciate it.